Hey everybody, welcome to one in a series of videos about the Zenobia Award. Now what is the Zenobia Award? Well, I'll have some links in the description below the video, but the Zenobia Award is a design award put together by various folks across the board game industry, and it's targeted towards marginalized designers and also topics for games. So all of these games that I'm going to be showing you on these videos are from different historical contexts and different time periods. Now, at the time of recording this video, the Zenobia Award has just announced and narrowed down their selection of finalists. And I saw this announcement and I looked at some of the games that they had announced, and a lot of them looked really interesting to me. So I reached out to the folks at the Zenobia Award, and they put me in touch with the designers of all of the finalists. And I've had a chance over the last several weeks to demo some games, do some interviews, do some play testing. And so I'm going to bring you some showcase of some of those finalists. Now, this stuff, if you're watching this in the future, the game may have changed. If the game eventually gets published, I'm sure it'll look a lot different. All of these videos are going to be showcasing the game on Tabletop Simulator. So again, things might have changed, and there may or may not be links to the Tabletop Simulator mod directly. That may change in the future as the designers, feel differently about maybe showcasing the game in its various different states. So now we're going to look at Winter Rabbit by designer Will Thompson. And we're going to take a look here, and it says, explore a pre-Columbian economic system based on reciprocity and community need rather than supply and demand. Prepare your Cherokee village for winter as a trickster rabbit of Cherokee lore disrupts your work. And so as we go to the table here, I just wanted to read one of the excerpts out of the rule book to kind of give you sort of a sense of the idea here. So this is from the designer notes. It says, in designing this game, I had the intention of creating an alternative to the problematic 4X, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate game model. Throughout the rulebook, I've included sidebars as notes from the designer on how cultivation, conservation, continuation, and competition figure into the design. So instead of a 4X, it's a 4C game. And he even makes a note there that says it's not completely analogous. But having had a chance to play through this game a little bit, let me show you how it works. And you can see here kind of in the middle of the board, this is sort of the main player board. You'll be up here gathering different resources. You can see you have game, wood, medicine, crops, and so on. And then there are these sort of 3 tracks here. And these have to do with these provision cards here. So you've got provision cards and story cards. So as players collect and score the various different provisions, so clothing provisions will increase this, the bowls will increase that, and so on. Now, if you get to the end of the game and not all of these are maxed, then the players will collectively lose the game. Now, the game will typically play over 5 days or 5 rounds. You can see these here. These tiles are stacked on the different sort of rounds. But it is feasible for the game to end if these are all maxed out and we haven't gotten to the final round yet. They will end at the end of that particular round. But if you get to the end of the 5th round and these are not at the top, then again, all the players will lose. Now, every time a player sort of builds or purchases one of these, so here's food and so on, then this marker will go up, and so that's how you get it. And the players will get points. So if you look at this one here, you can see it costs 3 different resources. You've got crops, game, and medicine, those 3 icons in the middle. It'll score you 2 points. You can see the little shells underneath there. And then it will have some effect when you do it. So if you score this, you get your 2 points. Choose another player to gain 2 resources. Your choice. Whereas this one here, if we did it, it would cost 2 game and any other resource. It'd give you 3 points. And this is choose another player to build a tile without paying its cost, and so on. You also have these different stories here. For example, if I did this one, cost you 3 read, give you 2 points, and then it'll have a new rule for the game. So story and provision cards are -1 wood. So if I built this, I would get the points, and then it would go down here to the active stories, and then this will just kind of modify the rules a little bit. And players will keep track of their points here. So for example, if you're the bear, you'll keep track of the points on this little track here. So these are kind of like the main way to get points from scoring these cards. The other way that you'll get points here are these different culture tiles here along the bottom. There's only one of these, and these are just things that you kind of like have to have. You don't actually spend anything. So for example, if you had 4 of the clothing cards, again, 4 of these provision cards, which are clothing, then you can grab this, and then it will give you some points, and then also give you kind of a special ability here. In this case, clothing cards require 1 less resource. Now, over the course of the game, you're just going to be taking actions, And one of the actions can be to score one of these cards or score one of these cultures here. If you've got the resources to spend, you take your action to spend and then you activate the card like we went over. The other thing you can do is you can pull workers out of this little bag here. Now, if I was let's say I was the bear player, this is my player board here. And you start with the starting resources. You can see that's defined over here. You also have this little token here, which you can send to the sharing, which I'll get to. And you also have kind of a face-up worker here. Now, you have one of these to start the game, but what is the main way that workers come out is, let's say we had the bear here, and then we had the, I don't know, the otter here, right? So you would take, based on the number of players, you'll take 2 or 3 of these, and then you'll shuffle these up and put these into this bag here. And then you also will take a couple of these rabbit tokens. This is the winter rabbit here. So we'll throw those in there, shuffle them up. And so one of the actions you can do on your turn is actually will take one of these, you will look at this face down, and then you will put it somewhere out here. But let's go ahead and just look at it. So here's the rabbit. So maybe we'll put it here. We'll draw another one, and maybe we'll put that there. So you could be drawing for your action, you know, somebody else's token or the rabbit, or you might pull your own token. Let's see. Now what happens is, as you draw through these, once you draw the last token out of this bag, that will signal the end of the day, and then we'll do some cleanup and we'll deal more of these tiles out here onto these 4 spaces here. And these will give you new buildings and things, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then all of the tokens that you've placed out here will come back to the player board and so on, and then you just keep playing. Now what happens when you fill up a spot here, so let's just, for argument's sake, look at this. So let's say we had done this. So once you put the last token here and sort of fill up the last blank spot, then you're going to produce or generate this resource. So in this case, the otter player would get 2 wood, whereas if when we did that, we had a bear and an otter here, each of these players would each get 1 wood. Now this gets called into question when you have a rabbit here. So let's say we had this situation. We flip this up and there is a rabbit in play. The rabbit will actually kind of steal those resources. So in this case, 1 wood would have been generated for the otter player, but since there's a rabbit there, this would have gone there. Now let's say we had a bear here. I'll explain how these get removed in a minute. Then the 2 wood, because 1 for the otter, 1 for the bear, go to the rabbit. Now you can also place, of course, your little tokens here, like this. And so what happens is, let's say we had this kind of situation, and there's other things that in the game that will add resources to this rabbit burrow. So once you resolve this, once this fills up, then in this order, you can see there's numbers here, 1, 2, 3. You're going to go and start to pull and take these resources and put them on your player board in this order. And you just keep going around in a loop. So in this case, it's really good for the otter player because they'll get kind of 2 resources each trip around here. Now, when you take these resources, of course, let's zoom over here, you need places to store them. So you start with the 3 here, and you've got 3 other spaces there. You've also got some other things here, like the bear player. You may spend wood in place of earth or clay. So, you know, that's kind of it. So you might want to get a lot of wood because it kind of can act as 2 resources. The other thing here is you have this sort of big tile here. So gain wood at the start of each day for each adjacent village tile. So you'll want to get extra village tiles and storage tiles and all kinds of other tiles here. So for one of the actions that you can do is you can purchase one of these tiles here in the middle. So let's talk about village tiles. So let's say this first one, there's always going to be these winter houses and long houses in the game. You buy this one and then you can put it here on any of these spots there like that. And then so in this case, you would have paid an earth and a reed, and you'll just flip that over. This will be a new spot to place one of your discs here. Now what happens in that case is you take the disc at the end of the round and then it will actually come out of the bag. So instead of, you know, placing one of these randomly, you can instead place one of these. You put it face down still, everybody will know what it is, but then you kind of guarantee yourself a spot there. So this gives you a little bit more control over where these go. And so you might also buy, let's see, some storage tiles here. Like you buy this longhouse, so it'll give you 3 extra storage spaces. Now, if you go and you collect a bunch of resources and you don't have storage for it, then it's going to actually go to the rabbits as well. So that's another way it can accrue extra resources. Now you have other tiles here. You've got village tiles here, like this well, or these natural tiles. And you can see a few different things there. So you may establish any village tile by paying 2 resources instead of its cost. So if I build this, that will sort of make it easier to build extra village tiles. And remember, in the case of the bear, if you gain 1 wood at the start of each day for each adjacent village tile. So you might want to build some village tiles around here. Now, there's some other things you can do here, like this natural tile. Let's find a good one here. Yeah, here we go. So I was looking for slash and burn. So in this case, you can see the trees. So when you get this, though, when you establish it, you just gain 4 of any resource. So that's pretty good. But what happens is you're going to take this, put this on your board, like so. But you can see the cost in the 2 trees. This is sort of slashing and burning the land. You can take these trees here. This makes it actually harder to collect the resource because there's more open spaces. It's harder to fill it up. And it has the sort of side effect of you sort of marking off places where you can put your tiles. So it's making it more difficult for you to, build up your kind of engine over here. Now, as an action, at any point during the game, you can take it for your turn's action. You can discard 1 resource per of these forest tiles, and then you can put them back here anywhere on the board. So you might even make it more difficult to get resources out here. Like this can just completely sort of obliterate that resource for the time being. You can also, if you want to, like place a token here on a spot, but you have to take that resource. So you can see normally you start with kind of 2 spots open, like an earth here. So if these were taken, they'd be face down, obviously. But if I grab this and I'm like, oh, this is my token, I really want it, I can, if I want, replace that with that, and then grab the forest tile here, and I still will have to have it eat up one of my spots there. So again, you just kind of play over the course of 5 rounds. The round's triggered by emptying the bag. You're scoring points by playing these cards or getting these culture tiles here. And then, getting these villages and natural tiles and storage tiles and all that kind of stuff to kind of, collect more resources and get more stuff. And then trying to sort of play around this trickster rabbit and so on. And again, trying to get the village completely built up right here. Okay, so that is a very brief summary of Winter Rabbit. There's a lot of really interesting things I really like about this game. The economics of it is such a very, very different thing that I don't think I've ever seen in a game before, where you have this sort of brinkmanship piggybacking thing on these various different resources, which could be changing based on how players take, the action to sort of carve out some space and take some of the wood tokens or put some back and that kind of thing. And it also has a really interesting little dynamic with the sharing token, which I didn't show you, but you can put your token out and say, I want this resource. Somebody gives you that resource. You get the token of them, and then you can place out and immediately get a resource of yourself. So it's kind of like this delayed trading thing. So you can say, I'm going to put this out because the way my sort of system's working, I don't really get a lot of bonus, crops or something. So I'll put that out there. So at any time, somebody can pay me the 1 crop, and then they can get it and then go use it for whatever they want. So that doesn't have to happen immediately, but you can have some negotiation kind of based around that as well. And it's a cool kind of thing because you have your own little sort of personal village with its own little personal ability, and you got a little nice little kind of tile placement kind of mini game right there. But then you're looking at the different cards that are coming out, and you're trying to see, okay, I need to get, push along this particular type of development and, push that closer to the end game, but they will kind of combo off each other, and the stories will kind of change the rules of the game and so on. So there's a lot kind of going on, but it's a very, very simple game. You are either just, pulling a token out of the bag and putting it on a resource spot, which may or may not trigger that resource to develop, or you're purchasing a card or a tile or one of the culture tiles or something like that. So it's very, very quick and snappy. And it does really kind of snowball in terms of like the engine and the mechanics and that kind of stuff. The first round is going to be sort of like, okay, just do this, do this, do this. And then, now we've got some resources. And then it starts to really kind of pick up and move along there. So this has been, just a really interesting economic style game, but in a completely kind of new, different way. That's a really kind of exciting thing. Again, look below if the Tabletop Simulator mod is there or the rules are there. Take a look at them. They may or may not be there depending on when you see it. But definitely take a look at Winter Rabbit, and thanks.